and pop up the slides. Focus Virtual 2024. This is our 5th virtual event. We've got a great attendance, so please everyone join in. Please contribute during the next 2 days. We want your comments, we want your thoughts, and we want this to be as interactive as possible. So not just about the panelists and the sessions, but very much about you and everyone on and joining into the different sessions. So I'm just going to spend a few minutes basically introducing the conference before I introduce our first panel. We have some fabulous panelists to start with, but a reminder, one of the very special things about Channel Focus Virtual is we want to create a very, very trusted environment. And part of that is about the Chatham House rule. And what that means is when a meeting or part thereof is held under the Chatham House rule, participants are free to use the information received, but neither the identity nor affiliation of the speakers nor that of any other participant may be revealed. And what that means is if you hear something really cool, please, you know, take it, run with it, make it work for you, but never say, I got that from that individual or a key executive from that company. This creates a very, very special environment and allows people to be very free and very open in what they're saying. So please respect that over the next 2 days. Sarah, next slide. So you'll see a full list of all the sessions in the attendee hub. Feel free to choose whichever session you want and join it. We're already seeing some great interaction, some great people getting involved on the right. Join in the sessions, ask your questions, make comments, talk to other people in your session. This is all about making a virtual event. Everything is absolutely live, nothing is recorded, and it's about making it very interactive. So really get involved, really get active, and enjoy not just what the panelists are saying, but everything from the other attendees at the event. You can meet other participants through chat in the attendee hub, so you can chat one-on-one with other people. Our sponsors are fabulous contributors to the industry, so please do take time during the 2 days to visit their booths, see what they have to offer. They have some fabulous technology and services which are really important to everyone's channel strategy and channel programs. And if you have any questions about the video, feel free to contact the team, or alternately, watch the tutorial video on the homepage, and that will give you a ton of information about how to make best use of the platform. The final thing on here is basically, this is the first time we've used this platform. We want your feedback. We want to understand how it works for you and what better we can do for you in terms of modifying what we do, making it even better. We also have a virtual channel quest, and this is an opt-in game. So you opt in on the game page of the attendee hub to participate, and the first place will win free admission to Channel Focus in Dana Point, not just for themselves, but also for a colleague. So fabulous first prize for you there. And networking. We all want to be very respective of everyone else. So networking, some simple rules. Try it. Talk to people. It's cool. It's fun. But don't bombard everyone. Be respectful of your other attendees and report any misuse. Anyone that misuses the system, let us know, and we will absolutely delete that user. So the workshops, these are interactive workshops. A number of people have very kindly agreed to moderate them. They're on some very, very key topics, and they will take place between 1 and 1:45 today. Please do join a few minutes early. Click on the meeting link on the platform. A number of live workshops are happening simultaneously. And if you haven't selected your workshop already and you want to join, don't worry, just pop into the session. Let us know which workshop you want to join and we will pop you in there. So Channel Focus, everyone knows us for the events, but Channel Focus is a lot more than just the main community. We have about 14,000 members of the main community, but we also have our Channel Executive Council. This is 60 of the most senior channel executives in the world coming together to talk about the future of the channels in the industry. We have our Channel Executive Council in EMEA, and these are the people that lead channels in the EMEA marketplace. And again, a fabulous group that meets on a regular basis in the EMEA market. We also have Club Next, and Club Next, if you are close-ish to being a VP of Global Channels and you need those final skills, Club Next is a fabulous group of individuals who are going to be the next group of channel leaders. So nag your boss and get them to nominate you for Club Next. And finally, we have the Women's Leadership Council. We'll be talking more about that tomorrow, but the Women's Leadership Council is one of the most powerful body of women on the channel side of the industry. It's a fabulous group. They have events linked to Channel Focus. They also have a virtual event coming up in a couple of months' time, and we'll be talking a little bit more about that tomorrow. But that's been a group that's been going now for 11 years. We're very proud of what it's achieved and the effect that it's had, a very positive effect on our industry. And Channel Focus, if you like what we're doing over the next couple of days, you can experience even more in November when we have the Channel Focus in-person conference on the 11th to the 13th of November in Dana Point, California. Everything will be up for registration for that event. We're building out the agenda at the moment. And for the first time at Channel Focus, the Women's Leadership Council will be holding an awards gala dinner, a fabulous dinner with awards on the evening of November the 13th, before we hold the Women's Leadership Council meeting on Thursday, the 14th of November. So as well as attending, We will be looking for nominations for awards, and then please vote for the people that you think deserve them the most. But these will be awards nominated by you, decided by you, and very proudly awarded by us to some fabulous women at the dinner in November. So join us for the conference. For everyone who has a sophisticated channel program, that's Channel Focus in person in November, and the Women's Leadership Council. Next slide. Hello. Okay, so basically, it is my absolute delight to welcome and indeed introduce our first panel of the conference. And we have three awesome panelists who are going to share their thoughts on Beyond the Hype. They're going to share actual examples of how they are leveraging AI in their channel ecosystem program. So if we can bring on our three panelists, and our first panelist is Louise McEvoy, and she is the VP of US Channels for Trend. She spent the majority of her career in the channel, with the last 5 years leading Trend Micro's channel business as the VP of US Channels. In her spare time, she climbs the world's highest mountains and is co-founder of a group called She Summits 14ers to empower women to hike a mountain over 14,000 feet. She's been on a vegan journey for the last 2 years and tries to do one thing a day to take down the cruelty of animals. So, Louise, welcome.
Thank you,
Our
Rob.
second panelist is Stephen Orban, and he's the VP of Migrations, ISVs, and Marketplace at Google Cloud. Stephen started his career as a software engineer with Bloomberg. He became CTO of Bloomberg Web Shared Services before taking on the role of EVP, CTO, and CIO for Dow Jones. Wow, that must have been a raft of responsibilities. He then joined AWS, where he was VP General Manager of AWS Marketplace, Control Services, and ISVs. And in late 2022, Stephen joined Google as the VP of Migrations, ISVs, and Marketplace. So, Stephen, welcome to you.
Thanks for having me.
And our third panelist is Mary Beth Walker, and she's the VP of Channel Strategy and Enablement at HP. She's responsible for the worldwide channel strategy for HP Inc., and she's passionate about sustainability and helping channel partners establish ESG goals and programs. Mary Beth has a reputation for mentoring professionals in all areas of business and seeing them become the very best version of themselves. So, big welcome to you all. And as I say, a reminder to everyone on the call, as we move forward, please jump in, offer your thoughts, your comments, your suggestions. So let's start with a sort of big topic, but I then want to boil down into real specifics. So, Louise, how are you seeing AI progressing in terms of your channel strategy? Where do you see it's headed? What are the big things that you're concentrating on at the moment?
Wow, that's a big topic, Rod. There's so much going on in AI. It's everywhere we look. AI has been in our products for a number of years. It just wasn't called that. It was all analytics. But one of the biggest things we're doing in the channel is making sure that we're using AI for predictive opportunities with, for example, joint account planning. So if we, there's always that one-on-one account mapping that people do together. But if we leverage AI to deliver predictive opportunities to partners by analyzing past data, present data to predict what that future is going to look like, how those customers are going to buy, what it is that they purchased in the past, how to get ahead of the competition, like really anticipating that future account development. We're really looking at that, analyzing that data, and being able to give that account mapping to our partners, so it allows them to see where those accounts should be headed in the future based on what the analytics tell us about that purchasing decisions and powers in the past. So that's been really good for us as a value-added tool to be able to tell our partners, here's where we think those accounts are going. Let's work on this together based on those predictive analysis.
Excellent. And Stephen, where do you think people should be looking? What are the 2 or 3 places they should be focused on initially when they look at the channel and AI, and what can they actually be doing now?
Yeah, thanks, Rod. Appreciate the question, and thanks to my other panelists for being here today. So, look, I think I really enjoyed appreciated the title of the session, kind of Beyond the Hype. This is probably the biggest hype cycle I've seen in my career. And I was, at AWS a decade ago at the very early days of cloud. And there is an awful lot of overwhelming interest. This is no longer just at the tech level too. It's not just a CIO level agenda. This is now kind of opening the door at CEOs and boardrooms, all these companies. Every company that I come in contact with is from the very top, trying to figure out kind of what it means for them. So if you bear with me for a second, at Google, the way we think about the AI stack is at multiple different levels. We have the chips that sort of power the GPUs and the TPUs, the various models that a customer or a partner of the channel might use, the LLMs to augment, which we offer both our own first party and a plethora of more than 130 third party models as well. Then there's a number of capabilities to help a customer build their model. So all the tooling that goes around it, whether it be the database or the data movement or the data prep, et cetera. And then a number of capabilities that we refer to as agent builders to kind of help build applications using different AI. And in the channel specifically, our commitment is to having the most open ecosystem at every layer of that stack. So even if you start at the chips, we obviously have our own TPUs that we've developed specifically for machine learning workloads, but we also partner with NVIDIA, Intel, and AMD to offer chips there as well. And then at the models, you have our own Gemini suite of models, but there's also more than 130 models we make available in our model garden, all of which is to help customers have the maximum amount of choice, whether that's from Anthropic, Mistral, Llama, whether it be commercial or open source. We make that available as well. And then coding assistance is kind of the next layer. And that's where we're really starting to see the first layers of real practical use case, where ISVs that we work with, let's say GitLab, Replit, IntelliJ, JetBrains, they're taking some of these models and putting them in their IDEs and their coding platforms, so that when developers are writing code in their IDEs, they're getting not just autocomplete, but what the potential unit test for that could be, et cetera, all the way up to the different applications where you have folks like UKG and Workday doing HR, workforce management, using models to generate things like job descriptions or annual performance reviews, or folks like Salesforce who are integrating models to help sales reps write call notes, et cetera. So I do think it's still early days, but the amount of use cases that we're seeing across every layer of the stack is pretty staggering. I know we're going to dig into some more detail on that as we go along this morning.
Excellent. And Mary Beth, where's the focus at HP in terms of AI? What are the 2 or 3 big areas that you're looking at?
So I think one of the first things from a channel perspective that we're looking at is we have tens of thousands of reps out there that we need to completely demystify kind of what AI is for them and what they need to know to be able to help their partners actually go out and sell. And what are customers looking for? What are the use cases? All those kinds of things. So one of the first things that we're working on is really a roadmap for reps on how to help them kind of get through the education process and make sure not just that they understand AI, but that they know how to have conversations with their partners about it, what customers are actually going through, and the kinds of obstacles that they're going to have to overcome, and really just helping them kind of make their way through everything that's out there. Because I know even personally, it's really overwhelming. So we have to really help the reps, and our customers are really going to, only benefit from how well we're able to do that. And so I think that that's critical. On the other side, when we look at our internal projects that we're doing, I'm really trying to focus on places where things that we're doing around HP on HP are going to actually extend into a benefit for the partners. So for instance, the sales virtual assistant that we're creating right now, we have to be able to make available to partner reps, not just in our internal reps. And to the point that you were making, Stephen, about like all of the chips that are available. And, when you look at the roadmaps of what's coming out from vendors over the next 12 months, it's just astounding how fast things are coming out. And so where reps can actually get good product knowledge and be able to understand, when do I actually position this chip? What is this other, AI product actually better at than another? How do I actually create product information kind of decisions? Those are all things that are going to extend to the channel. And so really trying to make sure that, we're working on things that we know are going to have a benefit to them.
And Mary Beth, sales virtual assistant, if I can dig into that with you for a second, what's included there, and what are you getting the best response from, where people are saying, wow, I'm so glad that's there?
Well, we're just rolling it out. So we don't have a ton of feedback yet, but really the objective is, the intent is to put, there's just myriads of information available to reps, and like how to actually make it as easy for them to get at the right information at the right time that they need in that situation for their customers, and without having to talk to a person about it, without having to call, anybody to ask information, to be able to just use natural language questions to be able to ask the assistant for how to help them with things. And it's really a time saver and an efficiency model that we're hoping will really, create productivity increases for the sales reps themselves.
Rod, if I could just jump in there, this is a great point Mary Beth is making, and that this is one of the areas we're looking at at Google. We have our partner portal is called Partner Net. That's where our partners log in to look at their incentives, see what benefits they get with us, look at our various different programs, etc. And there's a large corpus of information that partners have to navigate, and it's usually done through traditional search. But this is actually a great early use case for generative AI to take that knowledge base, custom train. In our case, we're using one of our own Gemini models, but custom training it with that private corpus of data, which isn't publicly available on the internet. So the models aren't smart with that information by default. And then give partners a way to say, what are my benefits for this quarter? What other programs should I be interested in, given the places I play in and the accreditations I have with you? And really, as Mary Beth points out, without necessarily having to talk to a human, which of course we'll do if we need to, but to get them to information faster is a great initial use case, we think.
Excellent. And Louise, I know you've been experimenting with chatbots. How's that working for you? What are you actually doing?
So following on to what Mary Beth and Stephen said, when we think about and I know you wanted to get real prescriptive, Rod, per the audience. If we're looking at what it is that we can do with partners, when we think about, Stephen mentioned a partner portal, there's tons and tons of dated information out there. How do you search for? Really, it's been an ongoing topic for a number of years in the channel, but using this AI to pull up, see where it is that the partners are searching. What do they typically look for? What do their accounts look like? Are they in an SMB space, enterprise space? How many customers they have? What do they need to do to get to the next level within the partner program to get their next highest benefits? All of that is kind of fed to them now. They don't have to search for it. They don't have to think about it. And they can, when you talk about the chatbots, they can put that information in. I'm looking for this. It can be in any language. We've got, customers all over the world. We're a global multi-billion-dollar company. So we can't just serve up our partners in English. So put it in any language, and that chatbot serves it up for you in whatever capacity that you need it. And so that's what we're really striving towards. So it's a very, very easy, friendly, partner speaking way of interacting with a global channel. It's been really effective, and kind of what Mary Beth said, early stages, because we're still learning all the ins and outs and how do we serve up this information and how much information do we give them? There's so much out there. So we really want to make sure it's streamlined, that it's helpful, it's what they're looking for, and put them on a path to success and give them those tools to say, this is the next way to deal with the business. This is the next customer renewal. This is the product that could be served up, all kinds of information that helps grow the business. In my case, in cybersecurity, helps secure our end customers. That's our biggest goal.
Excellent. And Stephen, if I can just bring you in, we've got a question coming in. What tools are you using to analyze partner portal data and account mapping? What would you recommend the people on the call look at?
Well, it's a bit of a self-serving question, so thanks for the question. But Google, of course, offers a number of our own AI-based tools. So in our partner portal, we happen to be using Google's Gemini models as well as our Vertex toolchain. Having said that, we, of course, are looking at every layer of this. My role is to build the ISV ecosystem around it. So we have partners at kind of every layer of that stack, whether it be Anthropic or Mistral or Cohere or Llama, Meta's model. So there's a number of models available to kind of help you, and each of them have their own kind of strengths and weaknesses, so to speak, that you just have to kind of try out as you're kind of building it out. But I think really narrowing it on the best model for your use case based on what you're trying to achieve is, that's what most of our customers are trying to figure out.
I think that's a great example of where it becomes overwhelming really quick for reps. Because I have to admit, part of what you just said made my eyes glaze over, Stephen. And, so really trying to help people understand, like, what do I need to know personally about those tools? Like, what is important about what you just said, and to what jobs in the company and in where we're selling, and, even where our customers are going, like how to know what customers that's the right conversation for versus other customers it's something different. And so it's just a great example of how we have to really help people understand, what do you need to know and how much of it.
We're using a lot of this, when we think about, our services partners, and when we think about threats that are coming in, and malware and hackers, sometimes we don't know if it's a red alert, or if this is just someone sniffing on you. And so, when you talk about that, Mary Beth, like, what is that information? How do you decipher it? Part of AI can say, this is a massive breach that's happening right now. This is a red alert. Or this is something that we've seen before. It's not, but being able to interpret that data that's coming at you so quickly, and being able to decipher what is a big challenge versus something that isn't. So you can put the right resources at the right time, right place in that particular part of your business, versus spreading everyone so thin, because it's hard for humans to know all this information, and having this AI to tell you this is where you need to focus is really, really helpful for everyone.
I think, just to build on Louise's point, that there's sort of two main externally facing use cases I see with the security ISVs we work with. One is the one that she just mentioned, which is finding the needle in the haystack. There's, if you're sitting in a security command center, you potentially, depending on the volume of traffic that you see, are looking at millions of events every hour or half day or whatever the case may be. So finding the things that are actually relevant that you may need to act on, and then there's also the summarization of what the next best step might be, as kind of an assistant aiding the security personnel of what they should potentially do next as a result of seeing this event or this potential threat. And I think, again, it's still early days, so I think that the panacea that a lot of customers are asking for as well, take the automatic remediation. We're not seeing a lot of that yet. It's still more of an assistant where it's, hey, you should consider maybe these 3 next steps based on this threat, based on what we've seen from other customers who have faced the same thing.
Excellent. Yeah. And moving on from there, and Mary Beth, I was talking to a partner the other day, and their comment was, I can actually see, I feel from the communications that I'm getting from certain vendors which ones are AI generated and just splurged out to me, was exactly the term that they used. How do we avoid that? How do we use AI but still keep it very much the HP message, for example?
Well, I think that we need to use AI in a lot of situations as the starting point and not as the ending point. So, there's a lot of productivity examples that we could talk about where you can, use Copilot to get your meeting minutes and your action items. You're going to review that stuff and make sure that it's accurate and make sure that it fits, is fit for purpose before you just blast it out to anybody. So I think that that's part of it with, messages to partners and anybody else, is you probably are going to still have to spend a minute or 10 to personalize it, to make sure it's really what you need. But you didn't have to start from the beginning to write it. You could actually get a lot of that, really the hard part that you have to sit down and think about, like, where do I start? Like, you have all of that for you, which is great. But I also think that, there's part of this where people have to start to get used to, maybe it isn't going to be as personal as it used to be, but am I getting the information I need? And, you're just getting it in a different way, or maybe in what you feel is like a less personal way. But I think that will actually just happen over time with some of the things that we do.
Stephen, what's your view on that one?
Yeah, this is an interesting point. So Mary Beth kind of touched on this. I'll maybe just scratch it a little bit deeper. In some cases, it may not matter whether it was AI generated or human generated, as long as it's actually providing the value for who it was intended. And if it's doing that, then I'm not necessarily sure why that matters. There are some cases where it will. So content is a big umbrella, right? And there's different kinds of content. There's written content to educate myself, but then there's also, let's just say, images or videos, multimedia content, if you will. And there it might matter around copyright and or making sure that if it's important to you in the context, that the image necessarily is valid. So one of the things that we actually just launched this at our next conference last week is the ability for our customers and our partners, when they're looking at an image, to identify if it was generated by AI based on watermarking capabilities we put into our image gen model. So if you ask, generate an image of Stephen drinking this brand of soda on a boat riding off into the sunset, a watermark will appear in that image that can be tested later that validates that was AI generated or not. So I think that's one example of one tactic that can be used. And I'm sure we're going to see more of that to come in various different forms of content.
Okay. And Louise, before I come on to my main question, Gary's asking a question in the chat. Is there a concern that chatbot responses could be incorrect and create an issue with product positioning?
Yep. Yes, absolutely. We're seeing there's security, there's AI in security. That's good, right? We want to make sure we use AI to help secure all of our end customers and everything that we're doing. You can flip that, right, and say, well, there is also security needed in AI. So when you think about what you just said, can it be flipped? Yeah, there's something called data poisoning, where it can manipulate the data, where it can, the AI algorithms change things up so that it feeds you the information that it is that you're looking for. So you think you're getting the right information, but really it's been poisoned. So we definitely need security in AI. It is becoming a big topic of conversation in cybersecurity. It's really the biggest topic that we've talked about in years. Stephen mentioned the very, very beginning, we haven't seen this type of conversation in many, it's really the biggest and that I've seen as well. So yeah, we have a lot of things that we need to be very, very wary of, very careful of, and you really need to know what your trusted sources are. It's there's a lot of context when it comes to the security in AI.
I think the security, and there does need to be quality control on some of these things. You need to really look at them, very closely before you actually make information available publicly to your partners or to any customers or anyone else. And so that's one of the things that I would caution people is both from the security and the quality control perspective. You really need to think about what your plan is going to be ahead of time and know the kinds of gotchas that could actually be there. And I agree, Louise, every day it seems to get to be a little bigger and bigger conversation for us around the security piece.
Yeah.
There's just two things I might add here, Rod. It's almost like a bifurcation of the use cases that I see in regulated industries versus non-regulated industries. And in a regulated industry where there is much more sensitivity to any advice or counsel you might give a customer. So let's say you're a wealth manager. You want to be pretty sure that the model or the answer that you're giving, if it's AI generating, is not hallucinating, giving information that might not be 100% correct to help a customer make a financial decision. However, your wealth advisors, the employees of that firm, have huge corpuses of data that they have to sift through, and that can be very difficult. And how do they get summaries that they can then interpret before going back to their customers? So very much being used as an assistant in those cases. Same would be true in a healthcare context, let's say, where you would enable clinicians to treat their patients faster as opposed to giving something that was directly patient-facing. Juxtapose that with an advertising context, where you want to create advertising or a piece of multimedia of people on this panel drinking your favorite soda, just use my favorite example, and then creating an ad that then goes out on all these social media platforms. A little bit less sensitivity around that, and that can end up kind of going direct to customers right away. So there's a little bit of a bifurcation there. And then the other thing I would say is beyond that, those two different kind of use case buckets is models are only good as the data they're trained on. So the more specific you want the use case to be, the more specific data and prompt training that you as a customer kind of needs to do by using techniques like retrieval augmented generation to take private corpuses of data and make maybe more generic models smarter on the particular context, and then having adequate testing in place before that gets put in front of your customers.
Mary Beth, I know you've been focused on this for a while. We've all got lots of people in our teams, but they didn't grow up with AI expertise. How are you sorting this out? How are you implementing it? Have you recruited specific people? Have you got a specific group within HP, or is it just washing across the different areas of the channel within HP, and each group is dealing with it themselves? How are you handling that?
There's some of both. There's certainly, like within my own specific team, I've created like early adopters. We call them the AI ambassadors, and they have like the highest level of interest, not only themselves, but in sharing what they know. So we're looking at how we can utilize them to help, get knowledge to other people. There are things that we're doing at the company level. There's specific training that we've made available for every employee and given them, kind of a time frame that we expect them to get through that. And then we have to look at specific groups of people and what kind of skills do we really need to get to them. One of the examples that I found it's been a little surprising is when I'm working with our coders and the people that we need to build models, they don't really get the business part of the outcome they're trying to create. And it is never in the past, like they're given requirements and they build to those requirements and it's good. And, we're just finding that without them able to really think through what's the business implication and output or outcome of this going to be in maybe 2 or 3 steps away from what they're doing, that's really where, from a channel perspective, I'm spending time really educating them so that they can look at something and say, what is this going to apply to at the end? And am I doing the right things to be able to make sure that I'm getting that outcome, not just the outcome that I've been asked specifically to create? And let me tell you specifically where that's coming into play. I'm really looking at the places where when we do something for HP on HP, that it's going to have a productivity impact, positive, for partners. So for instance, if I'm looking at prediction models, I know that it's actually going to save them time when we have better supply chain recommendations that we're making around timing. It's going to mean that they have to carry less inventory, that they're not actually selling as much of as they thought they would in the past, and those kinds of things. When we look at spare parts models and what are we going to need from a spare parts perspective, that's actually going to be a productivity increase for the partners, because right now they're having to do that themselves. And to be able to get the people who are actually creating the models to understand some of those outputs is something that we're having to spend time on. So long story short, I think that, it depends on the teams and what you actually need them to know that's different from what they've needed for their job up until this point in time.
Mm-hmm. And Stephen, if I can come to you, one of the things that we're promised with AI is it's going to be enable our salespeople to focus on the opportunities that they really need to be focusing on rather than the traditional pre-AI shotgun blast approach. What are the sorts of things that people can do in the audience to help use AI so that their channel account management teams can actually go, okay, here are the real opportunities, here are the partners we should be focused on?
There's a couple of things, Rod. I think there's opportunity identification and focus is one. So looking at, let's just say in the case of us as a large cloud provider, we have millions of customers. They're all using different mixes of our services and then of our ISV partners as well. So AI is very helpful for kind of looking at the propensity of a customer who uses one set of SKUs to what SKUs they might likely use next. So that can be very helpful in helping understand not just what customers to focus on, but what products within those customers to focus on. I also think there's a big boost in potential seller productivity in generating pitches, proposals, decks, etc., with the content generation part of generative AI. And if you look at some of the capabilities that, just for example, we're bringing into our workspace suite with Google Slides, you can just describe images, slides, business plans, presentations that you as a seller want to create and make it very specific to a customer, or take existing decks and change it to be the format with different logos and different contextual references based on the customer that you want to target. Is I think another big lift to productivity. So it's both where to focus and then how to prepare for those specific discussions. And then of course summarizing call notes. We just enabled this, and also in our workspace capability. Now when I'm on meetings internally at Google, I get an email about a half hour later that summarizes the conversation and the action items that were taken. and it's remarkably accurate. That's also saving sellers and boosting productivity in numerous ways.
Excellent.
So Rod, we've been using data insights for the last couple of years with our partners, where we're doing all kinds of generative AI predictions and modeling for them to be able to really target where to go after, where our customers who are ready to buy. We know that based on what we've seen them and track their shopping patterns. We know who's ready to have warranties upgraded and can give them all of those. And we've seen that really increase, especially in ISRs, some of the productivity there. Now that we have 9 quarters of data, we've seen consistently over those 9 quarters that the partners that are using those predictive insights are growing at 2x the rest of our partners in our program. And so the more that we can continue to add to those insights and use those to help them, I think that it's just going to become more and more of a productivity driver for them, as well as, increasing their business.
Mm-hmm. And anyone can jump in and answer this question. Sorry, Louise, it looked like you wanted to come in there.
So I'll add on top of that, there are enormous opportunities for partners around services. So everything we said about data collection, about modeling, really starting at the customer, what do they need? They also need education around this. They need to be protected. They need managed services. They need security operations centers. All of this is there's so much lacking for customers right now. So when we think about where we were in security, pre-AI, and add AI on top of that, customers are they're overwhelmed. If partners can get into that services model, really understand AI, and really be able to support their customers, not just in the sales journey, but also in the services and managed journey as well. That's where we're seeing the biggest boost in our partner growth, is all in services, whether it be workshops and helping customers understand where their risks are, just being a partner alongside that end customer, because we're, a lot of people are learning this, alongside each other, and it's different sometimes just based on the industry as well. What's the biggest attack in one industry based on another one? What is it in, social engineering for, families versus social engineering in other capabilities? There's a lot of opportunity here. Fortunately, it's sometimes for the bad, but for the partner side of the business, there's a reason to get in front of customers again.
Mm-hmm. And Mary Beth, we want to free up our salespeople. We want to give them the opportunity to use AI to generate materials, to take that in front of customers, to save them time. But at the same time, we need to be policing what they're doing and how they're doing it. How do we actually think about that? What are some of the things we should be doing to help them do it in the right way, to generate the right kind of content that's accurate, etc.?
I think that part of it is really that education piece and making sure that we're giving them the right foundation to know when they need to be really concerned about that, and when they need to make sure their partners and customers are really concerned, versus, as you said earlier, Stephen, the things that are like, okay, this is okay, we can kind of just let this go. So I think that the knowledge that we give people and the understanding that we give people right from the beginning is going to be huge as far as how they're actually able to translate that for customers into the easiest kind of understandable way for them to have the conversation and to look at how they can solve those problems.
Mm-hmm. And Stephen, I'm a CAM. I want as much information about my partners as possible. I want to understand what they're doing. I want to be as well armed as I can before I go into a meeting. What should we as an industry be doing to help equip those channel account managers? How can AI help achieve that? How do you put those kinds of systems in place?
I mean, the summarization capabilities of modern day generative AI is to me, that's like the it's one of the quintessential use cases. Take a large corpus of information around a particular partner over potentially a long history and summarize to the key salient points to help arm like a CAM, I think you call them, or an alliance manager with what they need for a particular meeting. It's also looking at that partner's book of business with us or with you as those other channel managers who are here, and understanding who their customer base is and what other high propensity customers you might have in your customer base that you can potentially help them with. I know that this panel is all about AI, and that was kind of what the question is, but I still think, despite all that hype, there's no substitute for relationships, and continuing to build relationships with your top partners. And that's, at the end of the day, stuff is going to happen in any partnership, and how you respond to it is really the key, I think.
Louise mentioned joint account planning at the beginning of the conversation, and I think it's huge how we can use that to a bigger degree than before. Now that some of the things that we've had to spend time with the reps and the partners on in the past is just going to be happening in a much more automated way for them. We're going to be able to have access to information that they don't have to come to a person to get. So I think from the relationship perspective, Stephen, it really will help our reps to be able to kind of take that to the next level with partners.
Mary Beth, dig into that. Give some specific examples of some of the things that you're seeing, some of the things you're doing there.
Well, so really, we've picked, our top X number of partners that we want to make sure that we have joint business plans with every year. And we're spending a lot more time both on the tools that we're using for that, for the ease of information for the partner and for our sales reps, to be able to use that information when we go on executive calls instead of going back to reps and asking them to fill out a completely different form, to be able to use consistent templates for the way that we do quarterly reviews with partners, and really making investments in, again, what does the CAM need to know is like a partner development manager for, how do I go have a conversation about, hey, Disty, I'm not getting what I need from you because you're not growing at the same rate that other Disties that we're dealing with are, and let's come up with a plan to fix that. And so we have data available for the reps to be able to use to really concretely look at places in the business with the partner where we need to look at, are they underpenetrated in specific verticals that they want to be in? Are they behind the rest of the partners in their country in an area where they think that they're actually trying to excel in their business? Those kinds of things. We have more data on hand for them to be able to have really rich conversations about creating the joint business plans with those partners.
Excellent. And Louise, what are you doing there?
Yeah, we can use tools like, we can see what partners are what customers are searching on, or even partners. So if a customer's looking for information around marketplaces specific to a particular topic, or if they're looking for what is deep fake, or they're looking for, how do I use AI in this specific vertical? We know what's coming in. And then with the AI tools, we can analyze that. We can then serve it up to a CAM alongside their seller and say, this is the end customer, and this is everything that they're searching on, that they're looking for. And if we layer that on top of what they've already purchased or not purchased, what it is that, what renewal's coming up, and that renewal has nothing to do with marketplace, but they're looking at marketplaces. Now we can steer a conversation to that end customer and talk in their language, in ways in which they want to buy, in ways in which they're interested, versus saying, here's our product set, and try to stuff our product set into what they may not be interested in. We're now speaking their language in things that they're interested in. So we can look at, all of this and go, okay, with this partner seller here, the end customer for that particular partner is looking for this. get the partner seller together to talk to that end customer about what they care about. There's so much that can be done here. It's very powerful, but having that predictive part of everything to say, based on everything that's going on, based on previous data, what they're searching for, we can probably predict the future opportunity looks like this. Go talk to them in their language.
Excellent. And we're coming to the end of the session, so I'm going to ask each of the panelists a final couple of questions. And Mary Beth, if I can start with you. If you look at what you're doing at the moment and where you'd like to be in 12 months' time with regard to AI and how you're using it, what are the 2 or 3 areas where you go, I really want to do that? What would they be?
Probably be to get the sales assistant really, at the level that we want it to be for the sales reps in both our internal and partner reps. I think that's going to be critical. I think the amount of information they need, I think the speed, which we haven't talked about, the speed of change. But, it's not like in the past where you can go and take a course and then that information. Like what you learned a couple of weeks ago might have already changed with AI. And so having people actually be able to keep up with the speed of the change is something that's going to be important. But really making sure that we're using all of that predictive data to create the best opportunity to increase the sales with partners, because, as Louise said, we have the best intelligence that we've ever had to be able to really know what problems to go help customers solve. I think that that's really going to be, one of the best things that we can do. One of the other things that we're working really on trying to solve very fast is around translations. We translate to 15 different languages. I can't even tell you the amount of time from real people that needs to go into reviewing and re-reviewing, and it still doesn't know the word amplify, every time I tell it, and different things like that. We just got to take that out of the system, both for ourselves and for the partners. So we're spending a lot of time around translations.
And Stephen, same question for you. If you looked at what you're trying to do with your partners, what would be the 2 things that you'd say, if we can achieve these in the next 12 months, those will be real wins?
Yeah, I would say if 2023 was all about piloting and POCs and use case identification, 2024 for us is all about getting the ones that matter and are going to create unique and meaningful business value to production. So taking a lot of the test cases and filtering those down to the most important ones, and then actually launching them into production use cases. So we're just going to continue to be laser focused on that. And then the second is a little bit of a cheat, I suppose, in the question, but the second is identifying the most common use cases that get to production in various contexts, whether that's in an industry or in a specific tech, vertical or whatever, and promoting those. So others who are earlier on in kind of the POC test mode can maybe take some shortcuts to get to production faster.
And Louise?
So I would like partners to understand that there are a lot of opportunities here. We really need a deep-seated channel. We need more partners. There's a lot here that can be done. Conversely, and it's what I said earlier, AI and security and AI, I would also think education is important. I think people really need to understand, what does AI look like, feel like, act like, because there's so much out there that is bad, a lot of bad threat actors. We hear about deep fake, we hear about people getting extorted. Now there's a lot out there. And I think people really have to pause. If they get that really urgent, persistent email, we need this, we need pause. Is that the person? We really need to be careful. There's a whole lot going out there. We see it behind the scenes in the cyber world, and boy, it can be pretty scary. So I would tell people, pause and really get educated on what that should look like, and be wary.
And picking up on Louise's point there, final question, and anyone can pick up on this one. In terms of education, I'm listening into this call. I realize how important AI is. I'm in the channel team of X company or Y company. What are some great resources? What are some places I should be looking to get really the best information on AI and how it's going to be applied? Anyone want to jump in on that one?
I mean, I'll start with a little, like, there's no substitute for experience. So by nature of where we are in this, like there's lots of tools and capabilities you could just spin up and start trying to do yourself, whether it be on Google Cloud or somewhere else. Just try to take a version of a model and start using it and doing some of your own prompt tuning and test it out. And my experience is life's best teacher. So I think just trying it and not kind of falling into the analysis paralysis trap is best to start.
Excellent. Anyone else want to jump in?
I agree with that. The experience is so important and really being hands-on. I'll put a plug for Trend Micro with a lot of white papers out there, a lot of videos on what this looks like, what it feels like, really trying to understand what does this modeling look like, what does deep fake look like, really actually being able to see with your own eyes, oh, this is what you need to look for. Here's what a threat can look like. There's, you just do anything AI and whatever it is that you're trying to look for, cybersecurity or, what other topic, there's lots out there. There's a lot of great tools. But I think education is super important.
Fabulous. Louise, Stephen, Mary Beth, thank you for a fabulous opening session of the event. I'm sure I'm speaking for everyone on the call. Some terrific insights, some real examples of what you're doing, which I think is what people on the call really wanted. So thank you very, very much indeed for a fabulous opening session. And the next sessions will begin at 10 o'clock Pacific. And session 1 will be the future of distribution. Should it still have a role in your channel strategy? And session 2 will cover the latest thinking on partner marketing and how to enable your partners to be more effective marketers. But Stephen, Louise, Mary Beth, thank you so very, very much indeed.
Thank you, Rod.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Rod.